Hey guys, welcome to Aurora Graphics. I'm Grant Dorsey and welcome to part 3 in the series on creating a print cut image from a transparent TIFF. In this next segment we're actually going to be importing into VersaWorks and showing how to print and then laminate and then reinstall the laminated print into the cutter and go ahead and cut it for you. And so I'll see you in the printer room. Hey guys, welcome to our printing room. It may seem like a dungeon in here, but we actually prefer to have a room with no windows and as few doors as possible to cut down on the dust. And we actually don't use this room at all unless we're going to be printing or laminating. So it keeps down a lot on the dust and helps you have fewer issues with your printer. So like I said in the previous videos, we're actually going to go ahead and do a video on VersaWorks alone. And I'll show you about the settings and things like that we use on a day-to-day basis and some of the different ways you can make copies of your image and things like that so you have less layout time and setup time in your design programs, but we'll save that for another video. Just an overview of what I've got going on here. If you look right, you probably can't see it, but in VersaWorks you'll know if you import an image and do it correctly that's supposed to print and cut, because you'll see the print obviously, but then you'll also have marching red ants around the outside of the image. And so you probably can't see that on this video, but I'll show you a little more about that when we get the correct screen capture software. And then the one thing I wanted to mention to you is that when you're doing a print and cut, especially when it has to laminate, you definitely want to uncheck the print and cut feature, because it will print and cut it before you laminate it. Then you'll have to go back and cut it again, and you'll have ruined the vinyl. Like, it'll never hit exactly the same because you won't be able to line it up correctly. So what we're going to do is set it to print only and click OK. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and rip this file, and while we wait on this to rip, I won't make you sit through that. So oh, it looks like we've ripped, so we'll go ahead and start our print. And Sarah, behind the camera, my lovely assistant, if you wouldn't mind panning over here. Forgive us if the video's a little shaky, guys. We're still kind of new at this part. And so what the printer's actually going to do here is come out, and we've set it up to lay out crop marks for our print. And so what it's going to do is lay out registration marks at each corner of where the actual print's going to reside. And that way later on when we put it back in to cut after we've laminated, the printer will actually go out and read those little dots and figure out where it's supposed to be and then adjust how it cuts, just in case you've got the material skewed a little bit or something. And the accuracy on it is unreal. This printer, I'm very impressed with it. This is the, just so you guys know, this is the 8-color VS-540i. And we've actually got it set up in a 7-color system to where the 8th color is a cleaning cartridge where it runs solvent through the tank, and that just helps keep your heads from drying up and things like that. We're running light cyan, light magenta, yellow, black, and then light black is the different ink colors that we've got, plus the solvent cartridge. And I guess we'll go ahead and cue the time lapse. Alright, hey guys, so we're done with the print here, and the time lapse cut a little bit short, but I'm sure you got enough seeing the print head move back and forth. The next stage here, where we're going to the laminator, there's a couple things you need to remember. The first thing is that you're going to want to leave the tail on your piece of vinyl here. There's a sensor on the back of the machine that tells the machine when you run out of vinyl, and so if you don't leave enough hanging off the back, it'll think it ran out of vinyl and it'll stop in the middle of your job. So what we're going to do is go ahead and arrow forward a bit. And some of you Roland owners may tell me that I'm wasting too much vinyl here, but I'd rather play it safe. And so what I do is try to run these dots until they get past the heating plate here. I'm going to go ahead and do a sheet cut. And because we've got our laminator set up to do 54-inch material, and this is only 30-inch vinyl, I didn't want to waste a big 54-inch chunk of the high-end Avery wrap vinyl that we've got. So this is actually some 30-inch stuff that we've got laying around. And so I'm going to have to make a sled for this to go through the laminator. And so I'll get back to you when we get to the laminator. Alright guys, we're over at the laminator, and if you notice, I've got the snake looking at me, but a good portion of the vinyl up here is negative space. This is the overhang that's just going to allow for the tail we were talking about leaving on, so the eye on the printer doesn't think we're out of vinyl. So instead of running that in first, I'm going to go ahead and turn him around, and that way if as we're laminating something starts to happen, a buckle forms or something like that, it's going to form out here past our actual good graphic, and we'll still be able to run it through the cutter. So this piece of vinyl you may be wondering about underneath here, this is going to be a sled because we're using 54-inch laminate, and if I just try to run this through here by itself without, because we don't use crepe paper anymore, so I'm going to actually have to run another piece of vinyl through. And this print here, this was actually something that we started a job for, and it just so happened that we were short on laminate about a foot, so most of this has already been laminated. And so the first thing I need to do is set my tension on the rollers here. And by the way, this is a Royal Sovereign cold laminator. And go ahead and get my foot pedal around here. And what we're going to try to do is keep our sled straight in line with the edge of the laminate, because and we're going to have to actually overlap these as they go through, because if we don't overlap them, we'll end up with some laminate that sticks to the plate on the back side of the laminator here. So I'm going to go ahead and get it up here close and stick it over the top of our other sled, which is essentially just a placeholder, and we're going to get this started. And then stop it. And once you've got it started, whoops, we can stick our print up here and go ahead and get laminated. You can see it's kind of already wanting to buckle, and that's because this smaller vinyl, if you look on the ends, you can see it wanting to buckle. The smaller vinyl is actually thicker, because, and it doesn't run the entire width, so we're starting to get the run out here. And this is what you want to watch for. It's way better to use laminate that's made for the size of material that you have than to try to do something like this. This is not recommended, but this is what we've got, so we're going with it. And once we get far enough through on the other side, we'll go ahead and stop it and give it a shear cut. I'm going to go through just a little bit more. Alright, so now we're going to trim it off this, and I'll get back to you when we go back to the printer. And it's time to get this vinyl out of here and throw the print in there so that we can cut it now that we've got it laminated. And I had a little bit of issues. I'm not sure if I'm going to include that in the video or not with the laminator here, but it actually did end up being a perfect lamination, even though I had to use the sled and there was a lot of buckling and whatnot going on. That was beautiful. So first thing we want to do is, unless you're planning on switching rolls of vinyl, I just like to unclamp this and shove it off the back, and that way it's ready to go right back in. And the next thing we're going to do is come in back into the printer. And now this is important when you line this up. You can use these lines here that are on the heating plating or the print bed itself, whatever, to line up your deal. But if you keep in a habit of setting your print rollers, the actual clamp rollers that are here, to a certain position on your vinyl. If you just get in the habit of, like I use this little silver edge here on the edge of the roller, and I always line the edge of my vinyl up with that, and then wherever it ends up on the other end, it ends up. So take your machine cut edge. That's the other thing. If you ever hand cut the front edge of your vinyl, if it's off at all, now your cut's going to be messed up. So you always want to leave that machine cut edge on there. So I'm going to line this up with my edge, make sure I'm straight across the plating, and lock her down. Now if you've got a really long cut to do, a good way to check to see if you got it square within the print bed is just go ahead and start arrowing down the sheet and just run the sheet through and watch the edge of the vinyl compared to the rollers and see if you're starting to skew, if it's drifting at all. And if it is, you'll know about it before you cut, and you can readjust your vinyl and test it again. Because we're on such a small scale thing, there's hardly any chance that this is going to skew at all. Should turn out just fine. So the next thing is to just kind of eyeball down the dots, and what you want to try to do is get the registration marks lined up perfectly with this position on the print bed here. And like I say, in a future video we'll go into a little bit more detail about that, but just going to sight down it. Looks like it's about right to me. So we're going to set a base point. Make sure that our file is, you turn around this way so you see me. Make sure that our file is set up to cut only, where it's set up to print only right now. So now the printer should come out and look for the crop marks, the registration marks, excuse me. And when it finds one, it'll go around and find all the edges. There, found it. Checks the exact position of that, and then it goes out and it looks for the next position. And that's how it adjusts itself to cut exactly perfect, because obviously you're never going to be able to stick it back in exactly how you had it. So we'll go ahead and let it find the marks and cue the time lapse. Okay guys, so we're here at the weeding table and it's time for the moment of truth. See if our vector actually landed inside the cut. Excuse me, inside the print. And if you look there, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if we can get it to focus. That black edge all the way around that white piece of vinyl that we pulled off, that's exactly what we were looking for. Tiny little bit of bleed, hardly any waste of ink. And so now we're ready to weed and mask it. Alright guys, thanks. That concludes our series here on going from a transparent TIFF image to a print cut image. I really appreciate you joining me for this. I hope that you learned a lot, or at least a little if you've already been doing this for a while. You can check us out on Facebook. Our Aurora Graphics Inc. is our Facebook page. And like I said, we'll be coming up with new videos and tutorials and stuff as fast as I can get them done. And so hopefully you guys check back, hit the subscribe button, and thanks again. We'll see you next time.